What was going on there?
Eagle song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Leave it to Carly to turn just any prompt into this like creative writing exercise. Welcome back to the Otoe-Missouria podcast. I'm your host, Ben Lucian. We're wrapping up what's been a groundbreaking 2024 here on the podcast. If you've been with us this whole time, well, wow, thank you so much. We're wrapping up 2024 with a special interview with Sierra Spirit. She's a Tulsa-based recording artist who blends her indie rock sound with her background as a native artist for some some songs that are posed for a big breakout, I think, in 2025. So we'll talk to her here in a minute. But first, a friendly reminder to please hit subscribe if you've not already done so. It helps us out a whole lot, and it's the best way to ensure that we can continue telling great Oklahoma-based stories. So let's bring in the whole team here. How are we all doing today?
Good.
Mm-hmm. Are we all ready for 2025?
Yes.
All I can think about is right now, as this is airing, we're all at home,
Yes.
off work,
Hope so.
asleep. That's going to be nice.
Yes.
I love what we do. And
I
love doing it
am
with y'all,
very
but,
much looking forward to
right.
this future.
excited about
love-
some time off.
we
As
love
people are watching
sleeping.
this, we are sleeping.
But I'm going to have fun recording this podcast as
We're going to have a ball.
too.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time.
So there's no question or trivia, Tuesday trivia this time.
Okay.
Due to scheduling conflicts.
Yeah.
But I do have a trivia question for you
Okay.
all. Do you know in what year was the dystopian fictional Stephen King novel, The Running Man, set?
1978.
2025.
Incorrect. 2025,
Oh.
yes.
Okay, nice.
The year
That was
we
probably
are
the year it
headed
was
into
written.
this week.
Never read it. Just
I
a
never
wild
read it
guess.
either. I just looked up what thing occurred in 2025, and
Oh.
that was the answer I got.
Okay.
So
that?
we're in for a Running Man future, I think. I'll have to
Cool.
read the book to
Yeah.
figure out.
I mean,
Probably
Oh.
bad
Is that a
if
good
it's
or a bad
bad
I know.
thing.
Yeah.
I was also thinking of Lawnmower Man,
oh, there you go.
and
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm not familiar with Lawnmower Man. I'm gonna have to look that one
I think
up.
it might just be a movie.
Star Trek joke, but we only have days left in the Bell riots.
Oh,
have
yeah.
to happen, and then 2024 is over, and then it's all so.
Get on that, people.
Yeah.
Well, now it's something that we do have prepared is the question of the week, and so we're reflecting on 2024. We travel a lot for this job that we have, so I want to know, what was your favorite Oklahoma travel destination in 2024? I know there's a lot to pick from. Editor-in-Chief Nathan Gunner, what do you have in mind?
So many. We had the best time going to see the eclipse
Yeah.
at Beaver's
Oh,
Bend.
yeah.
That was a
Yes.
lot of driving that day because
It
we
was.
drove to Beaver's Bend and back in a
Man,
day.
now
But
I
we
had
did
to
have a
pick
good
my
time.
answer.
Yeah, that was really
Oh.
fun.
Seems like an adventure.
For work, I had a really good time going to the Panhandle for Food Worth the Drive to Guyman and Woodward and eating at steakhouses. Had a great time interviewing Tab Singleton for the podcast next week, which is exciting, in Idabel. But my favorite personal work trip was Brian and I went to Sequoia for a weekend and stayed at a lakeside cabin at the state park at Sequoia and toured around Tahlequah and did all the Brian's Cherokee, so we did all the Cherokee stuff and had a really nice lunch at Vidalia's, and there's so many. Tahlequah has just the best downtown. Like, we just had a great time just walking around downtown Tahlequah.
Right.
There's bookstores and little boutiques and all kind of stuff. Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah. Great answer. Research editor Kirsten Stone, what about you? What about, this was your first year here at
Your
Oklahoma
first year as
Today.
an
Yeah.
Oklahoma Today editor. Yeah.
I'm still not quite 1 year in.
Yeah.
But we're close. I did like the eclipse. Whenever I got to go to Sequoia Bay, though, it was like the perfect day to go because the leaves were changing. There's like birds just like majestically flying over Fort Gibson Lake. And then it was like the perfect weather outside. It wasn't super hot. It wasn't super cool. It was perfect weather. It was beautiful out there. And then a little short trip. I liked going to Spirals in Norman
Oh,
for
yeah.
this issue because
yeah. That's our cover.
yes,
Yeah.
and Scott is such a wholesome person.
He's
I
so
loved
nice.
talking to him, and it was hot dogs.
Yeah.
It's a hot dog.
Yeah.
We had the best time shooting that cover too, didn't we? Oh my gosh, we had. Yeah, he's really nice. That's a good answer.
We
Yeah.
should also say, Kirsten, earlier this year, you took us on a trip to your hometown of
We
Anna.
had
Oh,
a
yeah.
great
Yes.
time. Yeah, that was
We
really
did.
fun too.
That was a lot of
Anadarko.
fun because we got to experience Anadarko, like, I feel like in a deeper way than we would have just visiting without a local.
Oh, we definitely were traveling like locals. I felt so cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you have to go through the fire department and everything.
Oh, we had
Exactly.
so much fun.
Yeah.
That was a good day. That was a good day.
Carly, what about you? What is your favorite destination?
Man, I went on a lot of trips this year, so it's really hard to decide. But I think my number one would probably be I stayed at Cedar and Stone Bed and Breakfast in Tishomingo. And that was kind of terrifying because I was by myself and there were a lot of windows and it was very, very, very dark. But during the daytime, it was absolutely beautiful. Like you can just sit on the porch and hear nothing but the cows mooing and the wind blowing, and it was a really, really relaxing trip. So
Yeah.
That story's in our current issue, and it's so good. You made me want to go there. The food sounds amazing.
yeah, she's Vicky is the proprietress of the establishment, and she's a really good cook. So
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a
sounds
really
fun.
well written story.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Megan, when you look back at your 2024 travels, what sticks out?
Going to Tulsa and eating a sandwich at Trenchers.
That was great.
That was one of my. I have been meaning to eat a sandwich at Trenchers forever, and I finally did. I got a Dutch crunch with tabbouleh, and I think about that sandwich all the time.
Good
It
sandwich.
is a good sandwich.
It was a lot of fun, and then also I really enjoyed going down to Quartz Mountain near Altus, and getting some pictures down there and crashing the drone into a fireplace. And
The drone was okay though.
The drone was okay.
Yeah, no,
The
it
fireplace
just-
was okay.
It needed new propeller blades, and it was fine. But that was I always like going to Quartz Mountain. It's just so remote and quiet. And and I saw an armadillo roll down a hill and fall into the parking lot.
Oh,
So that was pretty cute.
that's fun.
You know, it feels like ages ago, but when we, on a different Tulsa trip, me, you, and Nate went up to do the Canes Ballroom shoot.
Oh yeah,
that was a fun
that
day,
was fun
too.
Yeah.
And then let me sign the wall. I can't believe they let me do that.
Yeah. It's up there with Bono.
I mean, if you don't ask, they
Yeah.
can't say no. And I asked, and they didn't say no.
So I sort of went to the Slater-Kinney pre-show.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
They were
yeah.
setting up for the concert.
We saw their sound check.
We did.
Well, we didn't see their sound check. We saw a sound check for
Yes,
them.
the sound check
Yeah.
was in progress.
It was pretty cool.
Yes. So for my answer, there was like an Eastern Oklahoma trifecta I did earlier in the year. I had my first stop was at Eufaula, which I love visiting Eufaula. I love driving around there. Just the way the lake is sort of spread out over the roads. It's a lot of fun to visit. I went to Calico Heights, and they had some treehouse cabins up there. That was really fun to stay in those. The only thing is I had to leave before sunrise to make it to my next destination, which was in Tahlequah. I floated the river there, and our readers can read about that in a pending story. So I had a lot of fun doing that, and from there I went to Tulsa, and I went to Le Louvre, the French cafe, to sample their hot chocolate.
That is three very different experiences in one trip.
Yeah.
It was quite something, a very memorable and fun trip for me.
Awesome.
Yes.
Sounds like a good time.
Do we have answers here behind
Chris
the
and
scenes?
Bridget dying to know what Chris and Bridget say was their favorite Oklahoma travel destination in 2024.
We'll start with Bridget Camp.
Ladies first.
Keystone State Park.
Lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a really beautiful cabin there that looks like it's straight out of a Colorado mountainscape with beautiful windows that face out over the lake, and it's just really nice and romantic. And I got stabbed by a scorpion, but it was still beautiful. I loved it.
See, even then.
Yeah.
Even then,
then.
she still loves it. Totally
Yes.
worth it.
Yes. It was crawling across the floor, and apparently I got too close to it. I didn't even realize it was there, and
Oops.
then it
It
stopped.
stung you. Oh.
Ow.
Super fun. But yeah, Keystone.
Still a beautiful time, though.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was
Awesome. What
it
about
was
you, Chris?
Beautiful.
This is awkward.
Yeah, you're
We're
filming and
improvising
talking.
with
Come here.
technology.
Here,
a
let
little
Kirsten
bit.
do
Come
it.
here.
Here,
Okay.
there we go.
Robber's Cave. I mean, no, it's simple,
Uh-huh.
but there's a whole personal, long story. But for me, I got to go to Robber's Cave. Haven't been in a long time, and it's just a special place for me. And so, Robber's Cave.
It's a great park.
Awesome.
It's a great park. Yeah. Nice. Good cameraing, Kirsten.
Yes. She's earning her
She is.
paycheck right now.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have time for online answers, but I might just post this question anyway because
You should.
I would be really interested
It's a good one.
to
Yeah.
hear what people have to say. Now it's time to bring in Sierra Spirit. Let's hear what she has planned for 2025. Sierra, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So as this episode is coming out, we're gonna release it towards the end of the year. So we're doing some reflecting on 2024. I know it's been a big year for you. You've had your very good EP Coin Toss that was released this year. So when you think back on kind of your journey over the past year, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, it's wild. I think a big reason that this project took off for me is because of the base it has in me being Indigenous and growing up in Oklahoma. Before this year, I wasn't recording or releasing any music. And, thankfully just kind of caught the eye of a label that believed in me, and being able to tell my story as an Indigenous person through storytelling has been so sick.
Right. What has been, I guess, sort of the reception you've gotten from, I guess, this first batch of songs that you've put out there?
It's been great because a lot of the material that I kind of cover in these songs are very personal and emotional, and a lot of people in some ways, fortunately and unfortunately, can relate, and having people reach out to tell me that a song or the project as a whole really meant something to them and helped them work through something was probably the most rewarding thing for me.
Right. You mentioned that you weren't putting out any music, I guess, prior to this year. I guess what sort of inspired you to take that dive?
I'd always loved singing and playing guitar, and kind of started working on some songs earlier this year, kind of just for fun. It's always something that I wanted to do. And my partner had always been really supportive and kind of pushed me towards that, which is something I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to do on my own. And kind of breaking that seal and starting to address and work on this thing that felt so unattainable made me realize how much I truly loved it. And like I said, kind of breaking that seal just made everything start moving.
Right. Now, the EP that you put out in October is called Coin Toss. I was wondering, how did you land on that being the title of the EP, and what does sort of that mean for you for the larger project?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of the material I focus on in this EP is very personal stuff, and kind of realizing and coming to terms with the fact that there are just some things that we don't have control over, and things can change just like that, and kind of granting yourself the serenity to allow those things to happen, realizing there are things that you can't control. And paired with, I had a friend in college who told me that every time they saw a penny face down, they would flip it and leave it for the next person to find. And I thought it was a really sweet sentiment to pair with that concept.
Yeah, that is interesting to think about. I guess the life of a coin, that is sort of lost by someone, and then they pick it up. It's kind of like, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or something like that. Did you come from a musical family, or how would you sort of describe your background with music?
A lot of my family, I mean, kind of on my mom's side, further back, really enjoyed music, but a lot of my family were athletes. They weren't necessarily super involved in music and the arts, but they were always really supportive because it was something that I was really drawn to.
Were you an athlete yourself?
So yeah, that's where I they needed to find something for me to do because they
Oh,
put
okay. So you were
every
looking for
sport they
your
could think
thing.
of, and it was yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think songwriting definitely looks like a strength of yours to me. Were you writing from, I guess, a young age, or how would you describe that?
Yeah, I'd always loved writing, even if it was kind of just like journaling or poetry, things like that. Like I said, it was really cool to start making music because I had these like years and years of backlog of like writing and poetry and things like that. So it was really cool to be able to revisit a lot of things that at the time I was struggling with and potentially being in a totally different place now and kind of finding a middle ground. And it was a really good way, I think, for me to process and cope with things that I didn't realize that I hadn't dealt with
Hmm.
until now.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because it seems like a lot of times, listening to your songs, your work, I feel like the lyrics are as much for you as they are for the audience. Like, do you view it as sort of a therapeutic type thing to help process these things in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, yeah, it's in my own selfish way, like a lot of the times when I'm writing these songs, it is for me to process, but then realizing that once I hand that over to everyone else, that everyone is gonna find their own meaning in it.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I think that is a big part because you do write it for yourself and you have your intention behind writing it, but everyone sort of applies their own experiences to that. So in a way, like every song kind of takes on a life of its own, after you put it out there. Um, I wanted to bring up your late grandmother. She's an important part of the EP, and you mentioned her on the song "I'll Be Waiting." I guess what can you tell me about who she was as a person, and why you were sort of drawn to mention her on in the music?
So she was a huge part in raising me, and that's also just a huge part of Indigenous culture as everyone stays very close and community is super important. And like I said, yeah, when my parents were working really hard when I was younger to kind of just set a base for us, she was always the one that was around and helping take care of me. And we were always just really drawn to each other. I spent a lot of time with her. And she would bring me to the reservation with her where she was born to come visit her sister. And, we spent a lot of time just driving around and being together. And like I said, we were always just very drawn to each other and had a really good repertoire from the time that I was young. And I definitely wouldn't be the person I am, the writer, or, I wouldn't be as ingrained as in the Indigenous culture as I
Mm,
am without her. So it only felt right. Like I said, that's just something I never really dealt with losing her because that was my first experience with loss was
mm,
one of the most important people in my life. Like it felt like I lost a parent. She was
right.
just always so close for all of us.
Mm,
And yeah, kind of using her as the center of this project only felt right because she was such a huge part of forming that love for the culture and like a huge reason that I have like a center for my writing.
right. So she was kind of your main, I guess, connection to like the indigenous side of your culture, right? Yes. Well, yeah, it's your words were very, very powerful. So thank you for that song. I'm wondering, like, how did you think about your sort of indigenous heritage, growing up, and now that you're older, uh, has your perspective on that side of your identity like changed at all?
No, I think that it has always been what it was. And I mean, truly, until my generation, Indigenous people have struggled to be seen as equal or not less than. Honestly,
Hmm.
it's very strange that a generation ago that it would have been something that would set me back, and now it's something that pushes me forward.
Hmm.
I think if anything has changed is other people's perspective of the Indigenous community. Um, 'Cause, I mean, truly, until recently, like the past decade, the only displays of Indigenous people and Indigenous culture in media and film and music has been outdated Westerns. Like we
Yeah.
are something that is set in the past rather as a living and breathing community that is still incredibly present here.
Mhm.
And the only reason that people view it in that construct is because that's what they've been fed. And fortunately, in the past couple of years, Indigenous media and film and music has really bloomed into something that it should have always been.
Yeah.
And it's really cool for people to get an actual honest and real perspective of what Indigenous people are and have always been. And I don't think my perspective on the culture has changed, but I'm really grateful that other people's has.
Right. Have you been able to, did you keep up with Res Dogs while that was on?
Yeah, I was actually fortunate enough to do a set of live performances at Sterling Harjo's house, and he
Oh, awesome.
produced. So it was really cool. Yeah, I've looked up to him, and being able to work with him in any capacity was really cool. He's
Mhm.
great.
Are you, would you say it's a goal or a hope of you that you sort of, that you can be like part of that sort of representation in media, like we've seen with some like shows and movies, like maybe bring that to music, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's never something, I mean, for anybody that feels like making music and being an artist is kind of a one in a million chance. And especially for someone who's Indigenous, looking around, it was really disheartening as a kid to look around and not see anybody that looked like me in mainstream music and making music. So it pushed that goal even farther from what I think like the average person would feel or kind of desire for that. And even in like the small ways that people have let me know that the music means something to them and that it's the support and the representation it matters even on a small scale is like exactly why I want to do what I do.
Right. Now, let me pause for a second because I my plan to trigger the lights it didn't work, so I just have to. All right, we're back on. That's okay. We will edit that part. So let's talk about songwriting for a little bit. What's sort of your process? Where do you sort of start? You've got the blank page, and where do you go from there? That's the hardest part.
So usually, especially if I'm working with other people, I'll come in, and storytelling has always been such a huge part of Indigenous culture, and it was a part of the reason I fell in love with storytelling is because of the way that my grandmother could tell a story. And like I said, especially when I'm working with other people, I'll come in and I will take a moment in my life and tell the story of what I want to write about. And then we kind of decide, okay, how do we make this 3 minutes? And coming in and painting this picture for people and giving them the perspective to also kind of, when I'm working with people that I trust with my concept and my vision and allowing them to see the full spectrum of what I want to write about and then trusting each other enough to kind of condense it into those 3 minutes and still make it mean everything
Right.
it does.
Who have you worked with, I guess, to put the music together, and like who do you want to thank for the music you've been able to put out so far?
I mean, my label, obviously, the Giant Music, has been incredible and supportive in setting up all of these sessions. I got to work with Dan Wilson, who is the lead singer of Semisonic, if you know, Closing Time.
Awesome.
Really incredible, very smart and well-rounded person. There's a lot of different producers that I worked with on this project, and it was really cool to kind of see how things change and how a song constructs, like working with different people. But absolutely, my label has been really great and thoughtful about putting together these sessions and pairing me with people that they know that I would connect with.
Right. It seems like songwriting is sort of cool again. Like it never got uncool, but there's so many artists who have been able to build really strong fan followings off of primarily, their songwriting and I guess sort of the way they've been able to weave, I guess, the stories of their lives. like, is that something you've noticed as well? Is that people are looking more at sort of the art and craft of making a song, and that's kind of why they follow an artist?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like the Bob Dylan-esque like renaissance of songwriting again. I feel like for a lot of, the past 10, 20 years, it's been more based on production and like the sound. And I think people are really leaning back into like really listening more, which I think is really great. Like, a huge reason that I write and a huge inspiration to me is artists like Phoebe Bridgers and Julian Baker, who just really tell a story. And the tracking and all of that more is just context and warmth and added volume to the story that they're trying to tell.
Hmm. I was actually my Halloween costume was Phoebe Bridgers, but it was different. I was Phoebe or Phoebe Bridgers, so it was different, not the same. Do you have any like songwriting like icons or heroes? I mean, Phoebe Bridgers, of course, probably one of them, but anyone else that you look at as like, oh wow, that's a very good songwriter.
Yeah. Like yeah, Phoebe Bridgers, obviously. I love artists like Angel Olsen. Bonnie
Mm.
Vare takes a really interesting view to writing that it's another thing I really appreciate is that it's so kind of strange and misconstrued that you can really find your own meaning in something like
Yeah.
that. Because even though you might not necessarily understand what he's trying to say, you feel it in finding your own kind of piece in that. Johnny Cash was always a huge inspiration to me. Incredible writer. I grew up on a lot of classic country and loved listening to artists like, Johnny Cash and
Hmm.
Dwight, Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, traditionally, a lot of some of the stronger songwriting has been in the country field. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So we talked about 2024. What is looking ahead? What's sort of next for you? Do you have any plans for 2025?
Yeah, 2025, we're working on putting together next EP. So stuff will be starting to roll out early next year. I'm going on a tour with David Gray starting in January, and I'll be out on the road until mid-February, doing some really cool shows. Super excited to roll through. I think the closest to Tulsa is a Dallas show at the Majestic Theater. And then I'll be playing South by Southwest.
Hmm. Ah, very cool. That would be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess you live in Connecticut right now, but is there anything in Tulsa that you get really like nostalgic or homesick for?
Ugh, I mean, shows at Kane's Ballroom in the Vanguard were like,
Ah,
that was like the epicenter of my identity when I was living there in high school, going to shows at those venues.
mhm. Is
Yeah,
there a
my
show from Tulsa that you look back on like as one of your favorite shows?
I saw Small Pools at the Vanguard,
Mm,
and that was like one of like the first like live shows like that. I was like, oh my god, I want to do this.
yes. Yeah, in a lot of ways, Tulsa is kind of the the music capital of the state, or at least the popular music capital. So I think growing up there probably has an effect on a lot of people, which is why you see so many artists coming out of Tulsa.
Absolutely.
Hmm. All right. Well, Sierra, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to add to the people out there?
Um, just again, yeah, look at your Indigenous community around you and support them because we have always been here. We've always been storytellers. We have always been full, well-rounded people, and we're really fortunate to kind of be taking up the space that we should have always been allowed. So listen to your Indigenous community, support them because they have important things to say.
Yes. Well said, Sierra. Well, thanks. Have a good rest of your. Well, have a good 2025, I should say.
Thanks. Thank you guys for having me.
Yes. Well, it was great talking to Sierra Spirit. I had not heard her music before this year, but she's got a new fan with me for
Awesome.
sure. So
Nice. Check her out. That's
yes. All right. So now it's time for our favorite part of the show, podvents. This is where we go through the travelok.com event calendar, pick out a few of our favorite gyms. Is there anyone you'd like to go first this
I'll
week?
go first.
Thank you, Nathan.
Because as always, I have to start with a question.
Okay.
Do y'all, do you do black eyed peas on New Year's? Are you black eyed peas people? Like, is that a thing?
Yeah, my mom always makes black eyed peas.
No, but last year Samir at Samir's in the
Paseo.
Paseo, he did like this Indian black-eyed pea, like it was really good. So I did have black-eyed peas, but Samir made them.
That sounds good. What about you?
They will be served at the gathering. It will be debatable whether or not I eat them.
Okay, so you're not like superstitious about you must eat them.
No, I have a
No.
different superstition I follow, so.
Interesting. What's that?
Don't do laundry on New Year's. However many loads of laundry you do is how many family members you wash away in the new year. Don't do laundry on New Year's.
Did you just invent this in your
never
brain?
heard of
or
No,
is
this is like
something
a thing. Everyone in my family knows it. You don't do laundry on New Year's. It might just be an excuse to not do laundry for a day, but you don't do
I was
laundry.
gonna say easiest superstition ever to follow, right?
Just
Like,
don't do laundry. Yeah.
no, I couldn't
no
possibly.
laundry.
Chris
Not
and-
on that day.
Bridget, that erased my whole brain. Do you guys eat black
you guys
eyed peas
eat
on New Year's? Really? Do you
peas?
eat black eyed peas?
The black eyed ones.
on New Year's? Or do you just have do you have a New Year's superstition? Something you must do, like not laundry?
No, my uncle makes black-eyed pea dip. That is
Yum.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And none of us love black-eyed peas, but this dip is delicious and
Really?
makes it very easy to eat the 12 that my grandmother thinks we all need to eat because that is very real.
12 black eyed peas?
Yes.
Very important.
One for
no,
each month.
No more than 12?
It can be more,
Okay.
but
okay.
at least 12.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's easy to do.
That's a highly specific thing. Wow. What about you, Chris? Do you guys have? Are you black eyed pea on New Year's Eve or New Year's
Yes.
Day people?
Oh, yes.
You have
Yes.
to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now,
So-
it's not me. I'm not that superstitious, but my wife is maybe the most superstitious person I've ever met in my life.
Is she really? That
Yeah.
surprises me.
Yeah. So we have to have black-eyed peas.
Okay.
Yeah.
My father-in-law is this way, and he says, Brian's dad says, like every year that he didn't, like one year, I don't remember the details, but like one year he didn't eat his black-eyed peas on New Year's Eve, and like the shop burned down. There was some kind of fire.
Oh.
Like there was a car wrecks and things. Like, and it's like, well, I didn't eat my black-eyed peas this year, so he's really superstitious about it. So now it's crept over to me. It's one of those traditions I married into. But if you need a pro tip about if you're black-eyed peas on New Year's, or you just want something good to eat on New Year's, Homeland in their deli has Oklahoma caviar. Have you guys ever had Oklahoma caviar?
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. It's like
Yeah.
black-eyed peas. It's like the candied jalapenos and the
Yeah,
onion
yeah.
and all that stuff. It's so good.
I
But
like black-eyed
I'm
peas.
a fan.
I love them.
But I've never been to a
Okay.
New Year's Eve event that had black-eyed peas,
Ah,
which
yeah.
surprises me because this is such a big superstition, right? But now you found me one. New Year's Eve ball drop on the square in the town of Pawnee. Pawnee's awesome. It's got the cutest downtown. It's very like Wild Westy looking. It's awesome. We'll have black-eyed peas on their New Year's Eve event. New Year's Eve ball drop on the
Good.
square in downtown Pawnee on December 31st is the date of New Year's Eve. Just to write it down.
Appropriate.
So I'm gonna take another sip of my vanilla pudding latte. They will also have hot chocolate around the bonfire. They have live music and fireworks, and of course a midnight ball drop. So that's a really good way to bring in the New Year in Pawnee. Just be sure to, before you kiss somebody at New Year's, pop an Altoid because black-eyed, a lot of times it's onion, jalapeno,
Yeah,
whatever's
yeah.
in there. You don't want to. That's not a good way to start the New Year.
No.
Don't do that to the person you're kissing at midnight.
Yeah, Altoid
Yeah.
is a good.
Yeah,
a good
but
tip.
go to Pawnee on New Year's Eve. Sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, my event is also a New Year related. Personally, I like to send the old year off with a jolly bang, but the only problem with that is that it usually end up with a hangover. And I should probably do something to address that thing in my life. But until that day comes, at least I have the Hangover Ball, Tulsa's consolation prize for the aspirin popping music lovers of New Year's Day. The historic Cain's Ballroom brings in an all-star cast of rock, red dirt, and alt-country talent, personally curated by Stillwater legend Cody Canada. Expect to hear music from B.J. Barham, Wade Bowen, Evan Felker, John Fulbright, Robert Earl Keen, Mike McClure, Jamie Lynn Wilson, and so many more. Best part of all, Cain's sells both earplugs and Pedialyte. And you'll probably be far from the first person to wear sunglasses indoors there. Hangover or not, isn't being around friends and great music the best way to kick off any new calendar year? Doors open at 6:30 p.m. and music starts at 7:30 p.m. on January 1st. Tickets are $33 and can be ordered by visiting canesballroom.com or calling 918-584-2306.
That lineup and it's $33?
Yeah, all that
That's
music.
amazing.
Exactly. It's
Holy
a great deal.
cow.
Mhm.
That's going to be a good show.
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely. Kirsten, what is your event this time?
Well, Christmas may be over, but you can still have fun in the winter sun. The Yukon Ice Rink will remain open through January 5th. The rink sports 4,100 square feet of real ice for outdoor skating. Guests can bring their own skates or rent from the rink, where skates are available in toddler size 7 all the way up to an adult size 13. And the hours will be from noon to 10 p.m. daily, so you can get outdoors and get active. It's the perfect activity if your New Year's resolution was to do just that. And as the ice rink is located inside Chisholm Trail Park and is part of the Christmas in the Park Festival, you can even wander through the holiday lights before they disappear until next year. If you want more information, you can visit yukonicerink.com.
Sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
Yeah.
Yes. Sort of the last hurrah of the ice rink seasonal tradition. Carly, what is your event this time?
Are you looking for a peaceful, easy feeling to kick off 2025? Well, January 3rd through 5th at Lake Arcadia in Edmond, you'll find that and hopefully get to see some majestic birds at the same time. During the annual event, park staff will help point out the new kids in town, aka eagles, on their southward migration. No, your lion eyes will not deceive you. Arcadia's 26 miles of shoreline is a favorite spot for many birds of prey, including that desperado of the skies, the bald eagle. Don't worry, you don't have to arrive at Tequila Sunrise to see these spectacular avians.
Wow.
In fact, the park won't even be open yet. So take it easy. Even if you don't spot an eagle, a day at Lake Arcadia is never wasted time. It's only $5 per vehicle, and you can check out anytime you like. Call 405-216-7470 for more info.
Nice.
Thank you.
Excellently written.
What was going on there?
Eagle song.
Eagles.
Thank
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll leave it to Carly to turn just any prompt into this like creative writing exercise.
So good. So good.
I-
It's one of the
yeah,
many reasons why we love her.
I knew it was something to do with the Eagles.
Megan, is your event Eagles themed?
No, it's
That's
not.
too bad.
Which band is it? I'm just kidding.
There's no band. There's no band involved. Well, it's a new year, and maybe it's time for a new, more cultured you. Or maybe you're already a posh dandy with great taste. So whatever the story is, the first Friday gallery walk on January 3rd in Oklahoma City's Paseo Arts District is a good occasion to stay in touch with the local scene. Beginning at 6 p.m., galleries will host works from more than 80 artists, and there will probably be a few street musicians playing tunes as well. And of course, don't forget to stop by the retail shops or one of the many restaurants or bars in the area for pizza, tacos, burgers, tiki drinks, or even vegetarian delights. For more information, visit thepaseo.org.
That sounds fun. Those are always really fun, those first Friday gallery walks.
Yeah,
So,
there's always something fun.
even
to
when it's cold out, it's fun to walk
see.
around down there. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, it's a festive way to start the year. You know?
Yeah, and it's a very walkable area.
Any chance to eat a Picasso, I'll take.
Yes.
Love that
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for a star of the show. My idea is Carly for the Eagles. That's really good. Yeah. Any other stars of the show? 2025 is going to be the
I
star
think
of our
you
lives,
should
right?
be the star of the
Oh,
show
wow.
because you have made such great strides for
Oh,
our podcast.
thank
and
you.
That's true.
You're
I
a great
appreciate it.
leader, and we couldn't do it
Agree.
without you, Ben.
I
so.
try.
Yay.
I can promise you that I
It's the
try.
last episode of the season. I agree.
Cheers to Ben.
Cheers to Ben.
Here's the band.
Yay!
Well, on that note, let's just close this show. This has been the
year.
show. From here to Blackwell, home of the Top of Oklahoma Historical Society Museum, as the Oklahoma Today podcast. Head to oklahomatoday.com or pick up our latest issue on newsstands right now. Send your feedback to oktpod@travelok.com. I'll talk to you again next week.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
See you in 2025.
this is awkward.
Yeah, you're
We're
filming and
improvising
talking.
with
Come
technology.
here.
Here, let
a little
Kirsten
bit.
do
Come
it.
here.